doing? What are we doing? Oh, okay. Sure. Hello. If my cat is causing chaos behind me, don't tell me. Please, just let it happen. So anyway, I have started 2026 off with a really banger month. Like it was a really good month for me for reading. 4 books that I absolutely loved. So without any further ado, here they are in order of completion. The first book I finished in 2026 was The Hero of Ages by Brandon Sanderson. And if you watched my top 10 of 2025, my top 10 books of 2025, you will know how much I loved Mistborn. The coolest magic system I have ever read. I will stand by that. It's so good. It's so cool, so interesting. I I just want to know how he comes up with everything that he does, Brandon Sanderson. It's insane, and how he keeps track of everything. Because Mistborn was very good, very good. The Well of Ascension is the second book in his series in this trilogy, and it's good. Like it really is good. I loved it. I did tab in that one. I didn't tab this one because I read it so fast. But um, I was like, I will say by the end of Well of Ascension, I loved Mistborn. Well of Ascension was very good. But I was also like, I mean, yeah, these books are great, but I'm still not sure if I understand why people go so crazy over Brandon Sanderson. And then I got to part 5 of this book. Seems like it's like super far into it. No, it's like I'd say just over halfway, maybe like 2/3 of the way. And then I was hooked. I could not put the book down. I was listening to it. I was alternating because I was driving a lot during that time. So I was listening to it in the car and then also reading it when I get home or to whatever destination I was at. It was, I couldn't stop. I needed to know what happened next. Like, I literally could not stop. Um, just the way that he was able to pull everything together, including like these teeny tiny little details back in Mistborn, back in the first book, that you think, oh, that's really a really cool world building tidbit. Thank you so much for that. No, it is an important plot point for the end of the trilogy. Like the payoff for his books are insane. Don't you get on that camera. Dolly wants my attention. I'm so sorry. Hey, girl. Okay. I apologize. She's heard me say this a bajillion times because I loved this book so much. I distinctly remember somewhere towards the end, it might have been the epilogue, because that epilogue just, in the very best way, tore my heart out. Oh my God. I distinctly remember pausing, wiping away tears, because you do feel everything. It is an emotional read, but it's so good. But I paused and I had to go, like, this is why I read. This is why I do it, to feel this way about arts, literature. It's so good. Highly, 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 highly recommend. If you're not sure if you want to dive into Brandon Sanderson, that's okay. Just read the trilogy. Just the trilogy is good. I will say I was trying to put distance between me and my next Brandon Sanderson book, but the other day I did start Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. That's one of his solo, like his secret project solo books, set in the Cosmere. The Cosmere is his universe. I Have you ever picked up a book or started a show or listened to a song from a band and you're just like, oh yeah, so I'm going to be obsessed with it. I'm going to love this piece of art. That is exactly what I felt the first page on You Mean the Nightmare Painter. I'm a couple chapters in now. I think I'm on chapter 5 or 6, so not super far in, but I know I'm going to devour this. It's so good already. I don't know what he puts in his books, but yeah, I get it now. I totally do. I totally do. Fantastic. I'm very excited to read more of Yumi. I'm very excited. I have Trust of the Emerald Sea. I'm very excited to read. And he released a book at the very end of 2025 that was a collection of his short stories, just like him trying out different writing styles and different story, like just experimenting. I'm really excited to get to those too. So I have all of those. And then we might take on the Stormlight Archive. I've heard a lot about this character Hoid, and I'm trying very hard not to learn anything about it because I do not want spoilers, but I definitely do not want any of his books to be spoiled. But if I'm correct in my assumption that Hoid is narrating Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, very excited to meet that character. But again, I have no idea. And it's going to be really fun to finally read Stormlight Archives and come back to it and be like, ha, you were so right, or ha, you were dead wrong. So that would be fun to do. Anyway, The Hero of Ages was fantastic. So we went off of that. Will be serious competition for my best book of the year, and it is the first book in January, but it was fantastic. So we moved from that on to The Butcher's Masquerade. Whoopsie. Drop some books. The Butcher's Masquerade by Matt Dinniman. This is the 5th book in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. I'm not going to go on and on. I could. Maybe I will go on and on and on and on and on about how much I love these books. I have to really, really censor myself into not going into like that weird obsessive kind of conversation about it because it's just so good. It's exactly my niche. I'm hesitant to say that Matt Dinniman is becoming one of my favorite authors because this is the only series I've read from him, and it's very possible that this is just my niche. Like this is exactly the kind of book designed for someone like me. So I'm hesitant to say he's one of my favorites because of that reason. It could just be a one shot. I love this book series, and that's kind of it. I can see that happening potentially. I don't know. We'll find out because he's got another book coming out, another series, a different series coming out soon. Or maybe it's just a standalone, but it's not related to DCC. We'll see from that. This book, however, without saying too much about the plot, because we're 5 books in, and even saying a name, like a character's name, could ruin it for someone. This is my favorite book by a wide margin in this book series so far. I do have the next book already. Like I already own the next book. It's I the Bedlam Bride or something like that. So excited to read that. I'm forcing myself to take my time because I know the last book doesn't come out. The last book, doesn't come out until May, or the next book at least. Maybe it's book 7. It doesn't come out till May. So I'm forcing myself to slow down so I'm not in like withdrawals. But it's so good. There's so many super crucial things happening in this book. And I'm like, I'm stumbling over my words because I don't want to say anything and accidentally just ruin things for other people reading the series. The characters are coming more and more and more unhinged each day, and it's really hard. It's really hard to make myself wait before reading the next book, but I'm going to be good, and I'm going to make myself wait because I know if I dive in now and I just gobble up the rest of the series, I'm going to be so sad waiting for that next book. I'm going to be so sad. So The Butcher's Masquerade, book 5 in Dungeon Crawler Carl, fantastic. Rivaling Hero of Ages for my best book of the year so far. Again, that was book 1 and 2 of the entire year. I really hope this is a good omen for the year of 2026 for me. Because wow. The next book I read, gotta pick up my books that I dropped. The next book I read was The Prophecy of Bane, which is the second book in the Gregor the Overlander series by Suzanne Collins. I am not shy about the fact that I love Suzanne Collins. Fun fact though, I read this series before the Hunger Games was ever even a thing. Like it was not even a thought. Well, probably was a thought, but it wasn't released to the public, so the public didn't know about the Hunger Games yet, because the last book in this series came out in 2007, and the first Hunger Games book came out in 2008. So I was reading, I think I read these all right together. Like I read them back to back to back to back to back. Probably in like 2007, because it was before, definitely before Catching Fire was out, which was, I think, 2009 or 2010. Um, the best decision I ever made was to go directly from this series into the Hunger Games. It sealed her in my mind. Her being Suzanne Collins sealed her in my mind for life. I'm rereading this for the first time since middle school, so that's really fun. I think it's just fun to read middle school books sometimes, just for nostalgia. But I'm also a reading teacher for kids that age, so it's nice to have books that I can recommend for them. Uh, totally honest, I'm going to be totally honest. Everything I remembered about this series happened in the first book. So reading the second book was like, wait, what? Wait, it's like I'm reading it for the first time. Like there's a few scenes here and there that I vaguely remember, or I'll read a sentence and go, oh, that's right. But there are characters that I read about that I'm like fairly certain, because I can't even remember for sure, but I'm fairly certain they go on in the rest of the series. I totally forgot they existed. I don't remember them at all. So it really is like rereading, or not rereading. It's like reading it for the first time, and it's so much fun. They're surprisingly emotional, like surprisingly emotional. Suzanne Collins, she's got habits that she likes. She's got little things that she likes to include in all of her heartbreaking little books. So there are some really, for a middle school book, some really sad parts in here, but it's really good. I'm super super loving this reread, or this re-experience of Gregor the Overlander. And haha, speaking of Suzanne Collins, the fourth and final book I read in January was The Hunger Games. I finished this. It was hard. It was funny for me, like logging this into my reading log, because I didn't realize I was reading two. Like it didn't register in my head that I was reading two Suzanne Collins books at the same time. Uh, so I put in Gregor the Overlander, and then I put in uh, The Hunger Games. I was like, oh, well, because I've been working on this since like September or August, because clearly, like, I'm doing a deep dive on this. I'm trying to read it more critically this time. I was a little nervous that I was getting swept up in the hype of the new book, the new movie coming out. I only read The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes last year, and I only saw the movie after the book last year. So I was like, maybe I'm just getting all up in the hype. My social media is full of the my social media is full of the fan edits for Sunrise and the Reaping, and other Hunger Games connections. So maybe I'm just getting overly hyped. No, I don't think I am. No, this is really good. Like it is YA, and I'm planning to post a video about how I read YA versus how I read adult fiction, because I do go in with different mindsets for both of them. And so I do go in with the mindset of this is a YA book meant for 12-year-olds. However, it it's still so good. I am not convinced though. I'm not convinced. There are people out there I've heard think, oh yeah, no, she was planning way in advance. She had already had Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. She already had Haymitch's stories in mind when she wrote this. No, I'm not convinced for that. I don't think that happened. However, I do think that she is really good at her job. She's really good at reviewing her work and finding where she can put different plot points, or pull different plot points, or how she can pull a story together based off the little Easter eggs that she laid for herself. So I do think she can write a really very well constructed story. There's been talk recently about this being like a new modern day classic that's going to be taught in schools down the line, like Lord of the Flies from 1984. I can see that happening. I really, really can. I already know there are English teachers out there teaching it to middle schoolers. I support this. I think it's fantastic. I think it's a good, yeah, it's dystopian. Yeah, it's fantasy, but I do think it holds up a pretty good mirror to society in a way that's understandable and accessible for kids. Eh, no, no, I stand by that. Actually, I do stand by that. I think it is a good way to do it. Like, it takes on themes of propaganda, takes on themes of overreaching government, and like the importance of hope and how a single act can start a revolution. uh, I obviously could go on and on and on, much like all of the other books I've talked about so far today. Um, but I will be doing a deep dive video series on the Hunger Games. Actually, the next thing I want to do with the Hunger Games is write up kind of an analysis of the first book before I dive into the second book. And I'd like to do kind of a video series on that. So if you're interested in that, look out for it. I'm going to probably make a playlist for it, but it's going to take time because it takes time to dissect. And I am also a very busy person, so I don't have as much time to work on this as I'd like, but it's something that I'm really excited to do. So yeah, that'll come up soon. I'm trying to be really good about not putting expectations on myself to read a certain amount of books each month. It stressed me out in the last couple years, and I don't want to stress myself out because reading should be fun. And if I put expectations on myself, it gets more of a chore and it becomes more stressful, and I don't want that to happen. However, I will say I'm pleasantly surprised with how much reading I got done in January because two of those four books were not short. They were hefty things. Um, but I mean, if you've read any of these books and you feel any type of way, I gushed and gushed about them because I love them. But they are so exactly my type of book. I know what I like to read, and that was it. And I wanted to start 2026 off in a good way, and I think I did it pretty well. I mean, if I'm judging my own reading, I feel like I did a pretty good job. If you've read any of those books and you want to talk about it, please, these are my favorite kinds of things to talk about. If you have any suggestions based off of my reaction to these books, any recommendations, I would love to hear them. If you want to share what you read in January, even if it was just like half a chapter, or you're really excited to read something in like February, let me know. I want to talk. Yeah. Bye. Happy reading.